Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. We've got comedian Joe Bartnick. You can check out his latest tour dates at joebartnick.com and at Snappers in Fort Myers, Florida on New Year's Eve.
Ooh.
You can check him out and bring in the new year with Joe Bartnick. And then, as always, we have the great Josh Yohe with The Athletic. So watching the Steelers and Penguins at the same time yesterday made me realize how many Yinzers Christmases were hanging in the balance by what was going to happen. And we'll get to the Steelers in a bit. But if the Penguins had folded again, my God, what would have happened? There would have been a lot of sour eggnog. And, at a minimum, though, we had Sidney Crosby. And he not only tied Mario Lemieux for number one in Penguins history with points, but he passed him and took over the scoring lead. So, Joe, I'm going to start with you. You were there with your daughter at the game. And what was the atmosphere like? And was this Christmas come early for Joe Bartnick? Did Santa bring what Joe wanted and put it under the Christmas tree on December 21st?
Josh and Corey, absolutely. Merry Christmas. What a Christmas miracle that I saw. My daughter's first home game after being an away dance partner for about 12 games in Los Angeles, and some good, some bad. And Josh, you've been to them. And she finally got to be in the house. 17,800. It was a great crowd. Half the people had the Steeler game on their phone, looking at it for the first time. I think the first period, which I did which I did in church a couple months ago. So I was right there with them. But yeah, marvelous night. The crowd was festive, and after that game, I was literally dizzy walking up to the Lexus Club. I was so happy, and everyone was so happy. It was somewhere, literally, Josh, between a playoff victory and like beating the Flyers. It was more than beating them. Felt like more. That's how much tension and angst, and just what a relief. Because A, you don't want to let Sid down. B, you don't want to not win a game in 10. It was just a lot of pressure on Artur Shilov's, and just the fact that we won this, the dread of we got dominated in overtime, and then the dread of the shootout, Josh, and then Shilov's came through.
Joe, Montreal had the puck for about 4 minutes and 40 seconds in overtime, and you're just waiting for the game to end during that entire stretch. And it would have been awful because I mentioned this in my article today. When you think of Sid, you think of so many things, but more than anything, you just think of him as a winner. And when you think of him and his legacy, you think of the Penguins winning games or Team Canada winning games, whoever. So for him to break that record on a night where they lost, and it would have been 9 losses in a row, it wouldn't have felt quite the same. It would not have impacted the achievement at all, but it wouldn't have been quite the same. And it seems like every time he reaches a milestone, whether it be his 1,000th point, which they won in overtime, or his 500th goal, which they beat Philly in overtime that night, they always seem to win when he has a special night like this. And they did it again, even though it didn't feel like it was going to happen for a while. So that was great. And we have so many angles to cover with him. But I think the important thing, looking at it this morning, or this afternoon rather, is that it happened at home in Pittsburgh. And, there's still all these people. I saw more articles are written today, like Sid needs to demand a trade. Sid needs to play somewhere else. Sid's a Pittsburgher, man. Like, he really is. He's one of us at this point. Like, he doesn't miss Steelers games either unless he happens to be playing in an NHL game. Like, Pittsburgh is just his home. And I thought it was so great, even though it would have been cool if he did it in Montreal, Mario's hometown. I get it. I thought it was so perfectly fitting that he did it in front of the people who love him the most. That was a special moment, and you could just sense what it meant to him. And, of course, the reverence he has for Mario, but also how much he appreciates Pittsburgh in general. Joe, I just thought it was perfect that he did it at home.
It really was. And, and Gino wasn't on the trip. So Gino got to give him the game puck, and it was such a great moment. And, it really was a great moment in Penguins hockey history.
Mhm.
I heard our buddy Joe Brand say it was the loudest he's ever heard the arena, and also then when Mario spoke, it was the quietest he ever heard the arena.
Yeah.
What
Josh, I
a
love how
God
you
was
do
on the big screen. It was amazing. But I love Joe Brand. I will say though, it was super loud. It was super loud. But I think the loudest that I remember it, not counting, Stanley Cup finals, was a Yogg's retirement. I thought it was kind of deafening that day, Josh.
Yeah, no, it was.
It was still amazing. I'm not knocking whatsoever, but I wouldn't say Joe Brady because he had a great call. But I really think Getzlaf had the call of all time when he said the kid is now the king. I mean, that almost brings a tear to my eye.
He nailed it. They both had great calls. Yeah.
Yeah.
that was phenomenal. Up here in Canada, they're playing it this morning still and talking about what a great call it was too. No, it was really great. It's interesting. We've had a couple of special moments in that arena in the past couple of seasons, even though these are not playoff times. And it's all been nostalgia. You're right. The Yager night a couple of years ago was incredible. Marc-Andre Fleury played in the last preseason game. That felt like game 7 of a playoff series. The crowd was so into it that night. And then you have last night, and you're right. When Mario comes on, the place just turns dead silent. That's so cool. It's like, oh, the king is here. We need to hear what he has to say. It's very important. I don't know if there's ever been anyone quite like it in terms of the importance and the figure that he is for one franchise. But Sid's pretty close. And when we write the history of Pittsburgh Penguins hockey, those are the two people who will be most prominently mentioned. And I just think it's cool also that those two are so incredibly close. It's not always that way when you're talking about all-time icons on the same team. Like Mickey Mantle hated Joe DiMaggio. Like there's lots of stories like that if you look throughout history. Guys who were always compared to one another, but it was never like that with those two. And in fact, they're so close. Like I don't remember exactly how long Sid lived at Mario's house. I think it was like 6 or 7 years. It was a really long time. And it's not that Sid couldn't, afford a mortgage or anything at that point, or that he wasn't like mature enough to live on his own. He's just really that close with Mario and his wife Natalie and Mario's 4 kids. Like he's part of their family. Like he really is. And I just think it was so comfortable living there because they're all such good friends. Like, why should I leave? We're having a good time. So eventually he did. But those two, I think, are closer than people realize. And like I said, I'm glad it happened at home. I'm glad it happened during a victory because it would have been hard for him. I can still see, Joe, the look on Sid's face the night he scored his 600th goal last season and they lost to Utah like 6-1 or something. The look on his face, like the Penguins never put out the picture of him holding the puck after the game because he looked like he wanted to kill somebody. So I'm glad it worked out this way.
That's all I thought about, Josh, was just that you saying that story. when Montreal tied it up at 3-3. It's been, I've seen through TiVo and DirecTV, I think I've seen all but maybe 5 of those points. Josh, you might have seen them all, and it's just remarkable that I was, my daughter's 21 having drinks with me. My daughter wasn't even at the game. My daughter wasn't even born yet when I was literally jumping and almost hit the ceiling when we won the lottery. It was about between 11:30 and 12:30 on that fateful, I think, Tuesday afternoon when I had to be one of the only 5 people west of the Mississippi watching the NHL lottery on the internet. I think it was dial-up back then. And the fact that he lived up to all of that. It is the Sid's day, and I'm not going to bring in my Malkin thing. But, before that, it was like Ovechkin. Who the hell is that guy? And then we had a guy, Evgeny Malkin. We didn't call him Gino then. Is this guy coming over? They didn't even come over in those days. Coming over. Is he going to be? Is he going to be Fedorov, or is he going to be one of those 50 other Russians that we never heard of? And the fact that we've got to enjoy this for 20 years is just, God is good.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to pull a Mary Mendoza, but I mean, oh my God,
were you guys in the arena for Gino's first game? not making it about Gino, but like the two of them together. I
was.
remember that night, and I
Against
remember
New
looking
Jersey.
around and going like, this is going to be pretty special. And, you take it for granted right away. You're like, oh, this is obviously going to happen. I mean, like, I'm looking right here. I have the, commemorative last game at Mellon Arena. We were like on our way to back-to-back cups. We were going to win in 2011 again, and then Sid gets hurt and Sid's out, and I mean, there was a point. I remember one time riding the elevator at the arena with the team doctor. It was just me and him, nobody else in the elevator. And it was while Sid was out. And I said, it was during the Tampa Bay series in 2011. And I looked at him and I said, I don't want to ask you, but then I just kind of shrugged and he goes, I have no idea. He said, Sid will tell me whenever. And I'm like, it was just, that's the feeling that Penguins fans had. Like, is this all we were going to get? The 09 Cup, was that it? Is he ever going to play again?
Corey, where were you, Corey, when the Penguins won the draft lottery? Do you remember that day?
I was at Cedar Point.
Wow. So you were in Ohio.
I was in Cedar Point, and my dad called me, and I started running around the parking lot, like losing my mind.
So I was in Myrtle Beach with a couple of friends, and it wasn't on TV or anything. You're in Myrtle Beach. It's not exactly hockey heaven there. So I was just like floating around in the Atlantic Ocean, left my phone in the hotel room, go back inside. Now, where you were, Joe, it was like noon because you were probably in California, but it was like around 3 o'clock, whatever, Eastern time. And I wasn't even really, I knew it was that day, but I wasn't thinking about it. And I opened my phone and it said I had like 102 text messages. I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, somebody's dead. That was literally my first thought. Then I saw like 3 different people, Crosby with an exclamation point. I'm like, oh, geez, this is really good for the local hockey team. Oh, my God. I'll never forget that moment where I was. And you're right. Pittsburgh has been so lucky for all these years. And it's interesting, Corey, you bring up the concussion, because really that was the only time when everyone thought, oh, boy, like, is this career threatening? And it was. I mean, I covered that every day for over a year. And it was one of the strangest things I've ever covered because he would practice most days and he looked great. And you're thinking, well, he's going to come back soon. He looks like Sid, but he still was, having symptoms and issues that would just pop up out of nowhere for a long time. So that was a scary time. But luckily we managed to get through that, and he's still going strong. He's been with the Pittsburgh Penguins more than half of his life, guys, literally. And he's still one of the great players in the game. And you're right, Joe. He was the most hyped prospect ever, and he turned out to be one of the 5 best players ever. Like, he literally lived up to all the hype, and there was a lot of freaking hype.
And during the concussion protocol or saga or soap opera, I was like, well, you know what? We got one.
Mm-hmm.
We got one, and now it's 3-2, and the only scoreboard in life that counts. So thank God for Sidney Crosby, and thank God the Flyers don't have good concussion protocol. So Lindros left town.
I don't think they had for concussion protocol.
Yeah, it's taking Asperger plus. Yeah. But, and this is why I will never besmirch his name in this town, is after the Mike Johnston experience, God bless Mike Sullivan, who got us 2 more.
Yeah.
No,
or we all wouldn't be here right now.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's things happen for a reason, and Mike Sullivan was brought in to the Penguins organization to coach Sidney Crosby. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, listen, this has been a really tough 2-week stretch.
I'm looking for Sullivan on sets Sunday morning. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He was looking for Crosby.
Yeah, sure he was. No, it's been a tough stretch, but Sunday night was worth it for a lot of the Penguins fans who were there, and just people who have followed Crosby's career wherever you may live. Yeah, I know Mario played a lot more games than Sid, and we're not comparing the two. 1,723 points is still a hell of a lot of points. It really is. And he's still putting up points even though he's playing on a team that's not great. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. And if you look at the all-time record list, he's not far from passing Steve Yzerman, his boyhood hero. I think he's 23 points away. Probably going to pass Marcel Dion this year as well. Early next season, probably be Ron Francis. Then all of a sudden he's top 5 all time. And Sid doesn't like to talk about the numbers or his his accomplishments. It makes him really uncomfortable. But I'm sure the number 2000 is on his mind, and he's 276 points away. That's a lot of points. Probably to 3 more years at least to do that. But only one player in the history of the sport has done it, and I know that Sid would like to get there. I have no doubt.
Guys, I think just the fact that it's not a ridiculous statement to put him in the same sentence or paragraph as Mario is all you need to say about the guy.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I mean, because like people early on were thinking that, like, oh, we got the next Mario, and everybody's like, well, like, come on, let's settle down here, like that was we were so lucky to have one time. I mean, I was one of the idiots. I was like 19 or whatever. I was like, oh my god, we got him. He's gonna be just like Mario. And I don't know. I mean, it is just hard to believe that this actually has taken place. I mean, I remember, I didn't see Mario's first, handful of years because I wasn't born, or I missed his first 2 years. But, I watched every single game Mario played, and I never thought I'd see something like that again. I don't know if you guys remember that. Whenever, like, we all knew that, like, if Mario was out, like, there was no worse feeling going to the game and Mario wasn't playing.
Right.
So when he came back, I was like, I want to appreciate this as much as possible. And then as his career was entering the last couple of years, I started thinking, like, I don't know if we'll ever see anything like this again. So yeah, again, not to beat a dead horse, but we're so incredibly lucky. So I don't want to complain, but the on ice product, I hate to go there with it, hasn't been great.
If I could just make one more statement about Mario, and it's funny because our buddy Staggy used to do a thing called back checking the pens, and my grandparents would always watch the Channel 2 news, and like the second sports would always be the Penguins. Yeah, whatever the game would be like, they'd show the game highlights, but in the hour, like the last 15 minutes would be like the Penguins' little portion with Staggy, and I always do back checking the pens, and Lemieux's goals in the mid to late 80s, that footage, wherever that is in the KDK vaults, that's got to go to the Hall of Fame, because they are some of the just most ridiculous things you've ever seen. And that's what I say, Lemieux's witch factor. Sid doesn't have that witch factor, which,
nobody does.
Kind of has. No one. He's
not to that level.
He's the king of the witches, Lemieux. But it was like when Lemieux wasn't on the ice, it's like, well, you might as well go get a beer. It's like nothing. We were never going to score. And that's the palpitations I get when Gino's out of the lineup. And it's just like, oh, man, if Sid and Russ are on the ice, we're not going to score. Like sometimes that's the feeling. And now we can get back to, our discussing what's happening. I just had to say, it's like, that's the feeling. That's how great Sid is.
No, and I'd like to add to that. And you're right, Mario, especially prime Mario, late 80s, early 90s. Like every goal was a work of art. I don't think he ever scored an ugly goal. The ultimate highlight reel for sure. But yeah, regarding Sid and Mario, I know them both. I know Sid a lot better, having covered him like daily forever. And conversations I've had with him, I often go back to the 2005-06 Penguins, his rookie year, and that was not a good team. And Mario was, he couldn't really skate anymore. He was dealing with health problems. I think he played 25 games that year, something like that. And those were the only games Sid and Mario ever played together. But the more I have talked with Sid about it, the more I realize what an enormous impact those games had on him. And I've asked him about being a captain, and he's considered one of the greatest captains in history. And he told me, he said, I was never the captain of any team until I got to Pittsburgh. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? Really? Yeah. And he said, yeah. He said, I always played up. So I was always 2 or 3 years younger than everyone else on every team I was on when I was young. So he was never the captain of anything. And so I said, well, how'd you become such of a good one? He said, well, I don't know. He said, it takes a lot of years to figure it out. But he said, I'd watch Mario during my rookie year, just in between periods. I'd just sit there and watch him. And I was amazed at how even keeled he always was. Like we could be winning 4-0, losing 4-0. He was the same. And Sid said, I'm more emotional by nature than Mario. He was so calm. But I saw what a big deal that was and how impressive that was. So we would try to emulate him. And he always tells me, just even though we only played a couple of dozen games together, the impact it had on Sid, who was 18 at the time, was massive. And he still thinks back to, things Mario would have said or things he would have done in the locker room whenever he feels it's appropriate. So yeah, I just, sometimes the hockey gods feel like giving you a nice present. And not only did they give Pittsburgh Sid and Mario, but let them overlap just enough, just a little bit, I think, for a few very important lessons to be learned. And boy, oh boy, are we spoiled.
It was like truly like the passing of the torch, like literally it was like the pacing in a marathon where you like have to sit there and hold both hands on it for a couple seconds. And we will probably after Bill, we'll get to the Penguins' current state of affairs. But I do want to mention, because another thought you talk about Sidney Crosby passing Mario Lemieux. There's a million thoughts, but Josh, you really talked about in your articles about his work ethic, how Mario was just, pure talent, like we've never seen before and probably will never see again. And I started when you were describing Sidney Crosby's work ethic, I started to think to myself, because Joe, you always say, whenever you have to do more work or like, should I write more jokes? What would Sid do? And I thought to myself, like, have I ever wanted anything as much in my life as Sidney Crosby wants to win? 'Cause, like I really thought, like, your article really kind of highlighted like the work he puts in, how obsessed he is with winning. And I'm like, I don't think I've tried that hard for anything.
No, well, that's what sets him apart. Yes, he is more talented than almost anybody who ever lived. But if Mario was like this much more talented, Sid's like that much more talented. But it's that work ethic, that drive that really sets him apart. Mario had the famous line when he was asked how he prepared for the season. He said, "I stopped ordering the fries with the club sandwich on August 1st, which I think is completely rooted in reality. Like, I do. He didn't, especially in his prime, he didn't really work out. He didn't really practice that hard. Like, he didn't have to. He was just that much better than I thought. Not that he wasn't driven to win. He was. But that was just him. Whereas Sid, when I think of him and hard work, there's one story that always sticks out. And in fact, it converges with the concussion. He was not playing during the 11-12 season. He was with the team, though. We were in Denver. And so you're in the high altitude, right? He put himself through an on-ice workout after a morning skate. I was like the only person in the arena. I'm just sitting there watching. And by the end of it, like, I almost called 911. I'm not even kidding. Like, I thought he was dying. Like, I've never seen anybody look that exhausted on the ice. Like, he was in pain. He was so exhausted, but he was testing his body to make sure that his head would be all right. And all the symptoms were all right if he put himself through hell. That was about 2 weeks, I think, before he came back at Madison Square Garden for the second time, and then he was good to go. I asked him about that not long ago. He said, "Oh, God, I remember that one." I said, "Yeah, I bet you do. I was a little worried about you." But that's him. He will outwork you in any circumstance, no matter who you are. Even Joe at this age, he's 38. Guy's got 9 figures in the bank. He's won everything there is to win numerous times. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He doesn't have anything left to do, but he's just being Sidney Crosby, and that's what Sidney Crosby does.
I have 2 points then before we get to Bill on the my Colorado exhaustion was, I'll never forget, it's about 3 years ago in the Ryan Shea St. Ivany first era. I was in a Philadelphia hotel room. And they did not blow like a 5-0 lead to the Avalanche. Yeah. Okay, it was like, that's why I'm like
a Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure you were there. I was like, just thinking back on the last 2 weeks, the monumental failures of holding leads. I'm like, it can't be worse than that one in Colorado, because that was, I just felt like, because I was in Philadelphia, it disintegrated like that. I'm just like, you got to be. I couldn't take my nap. I couldn't do what Sid would do. I was just like, what? No, but I just want to make a point. I ask you guys, do you think the 2000 means something? Not that Sid is this much of a rival to Ovi, but he's got his 3s. Ovi's got 1. He's not going to catch goals. Do you think getting 2000 is something obviously Ovi's not going to do, and that would be almost like, well, Sid got 2000 points, and that's kind of like, because it's almost like it's the battle for the 4th seat on Mount Rushmore. Because I think we've all agreed, except my partner Frazier, Gordy's probably not on that chair anymore. So then you have the Holy Trinity. Then you have one guy who got 3,000 hits and the most goals of anybody ever, but only 1 cup.
Right.
Yeah, I'll let Josh go after me. But quickly, I'll just say I think that if he passes 2,000 points, that is as significant as Gretzky doing whatever Gretzky did. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of phantom assists. I'm not saying you take away Gretzky's phantom assists, he still is way ahead of everybody else. But he also played in an era whenever goalies were wearing something that was literally slightly larger than shin pads nowadays. You know what I mean? Like you look at even Mario benefited from it. You look at the first goal Mario ever scored, Pete Peters going down. You're like, really? That's a goaltender? Like he's got nothing. He's so much net to shoot at. So for Sid to do it through this era, and that's what like for Ovi to pass Ovechkin or for Gretzky to pass Gretzky in this era, I think that puts them in a level that it puts them on the same plane.
Yeah, I mean, we will argue Crosby and Ovechkin forever. We were arguing who was better before we ever saw them play in the NHL. It's just the way it is. I think most hockey people will certainly tell you if they were building a team like Crosby is the one they would pick, that he was the better player and had the better career. You also cannot deny what Joe said. Like one guy's like has the most hits ever and the most goals ever. That's a pretty impressive combination. And the relationship has mellowed so much over the years. And I can't speak. I'm not going to speak for either one of them. I don't really know Ovechkin that well. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple of times. That doesn't really count. Sid's a little different. Sid would never admit this, I don't think, or say it publicly. But I've always sensed from him, nothing he says really, but I've always sensed from him that he's always got an eye on Ovechkin. He's always aware, and they do use each other I think, to gauge, where they are in the rivalry. I've heard stories that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson would always talk about. When I pick up the newspaper the next day, I would check his stats. That's the first thing I would do, and I think there's an element of that with Crosby and Ovechkin, and I think Crosby, certainly has the team achievements. And if he does go over 2,000 points, yeah, I think that probably would say something. I always look at those two as, listen, they're two of the greatest ever. They lived up to everything. Do I think ultimately Crosby won the war? Like, yeah, I do. He won 3 more cups. Ovi never won the Olympics, never beat Canada. Like Crosby and Ovechkin head-to-head numbers, Crosby has a pretty substantial advantage. So if you look at it that way, yeah, I think Crosby won the war if you had to pick a winner. But there's not a loser. I mean, really, we've all been the winners just to get to watch it for 20 years.
No, I was just thinking about, when they argue on TSN in 20 years.
Right, which they will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course they will.
They'll have no problem putting Sid ahead of a Russian,
You would think that, but they love Ovechkin in Canada. They really do. Because he plays like a Canadian.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's what it is.
Plus, they'd rather show that they can. Oh, we can cheer. We can embrace a Russian because he's not going to touch Gretzky.
That's part of it.
Sid's like Gretzky can still be number one. That's
Sid's
all they worry about.
If Sid were from Ontario, it would be a little different, but he's not. So that we do have to consider that as well.
There's
that will help McDavid down the road, being a Toronto boy. They like that.
Yeah, they don't like them whenever they come from out east.
Oh no,
was
Quebec, but
was Bill in the house last night?
I don't think he was actually. I don't know.
What was Bill's blood pressure like during the? I mean, with the Penguins, because that's what I think about the fans and Bill. I know how big of a fan he is, Mr. Bill Neofis, obviously, but the Steelers are in the process of almost blowing a 2-score lead in the final minutes of the game. And then the Penguins go down 1-0, and you're just like, every Yinzer is just smacking their head off the TV. So I don't know if you got any texts from Bill during that.
A couple. He stayed pretty calm. There was a lot of booze being consumed in Pittsburgh at about 7:10 p.m. or whatever time it was, when the Steelers were on the verge of like having this brilliant performance completely thrown on its ass by a collapse, which almost happened. Then you have the Penguins falling down early, but then Sid making some magic. That was a wild 30-minute sequence in the history of Pittsburgh sports, if you think about it, really.
Oh yeah.
and the Pirates weren't involved at all, so it was really perfect, Joe.
It was actual Pittsburgh sports. It wasn't amateur sports. It was professional sports.
Speaking of our great sponsor, Bill Neofus, I just heard from him. He had a little Christmas message he wanted to send along. So from the king, the emperor of Neofus Insurance Group, Bill, the Neofus Insurance Group wants to wish Josh, Joe, and Corey and the entire Two for Talking community happy holidays and a safe and peaceful new year. It's been a privilege to support the podcast, and we want to congratulate Josh, Joe, and Corey on what has quickly become the most entertaining and informative podcast in the marketplace. Thanks, Bill. I agree.
Thanks, Bill. Merry Christmas, Bill.
Continued success moving forward. And for those who don't know by now, if you're new to the show, it's the Neofus Insurance Group, our great sponsor. Bill leads the way, no matter what your insurance needs are. Literally, anything you can think of, they will take care of you. So please give my friend Bill a call. 412-364-3388. Happy holidays to you, Bill. You are the best.
Yay, Bill. Merry Christmas.
Bill.
Happy New Year, Bill. And I want to personally thank all the listeners, watchers, viewers, all the fans. And they're so cool. Every time I see them around town, and they're always like, oh, we love Two for Talking. It's the best. And a guy named Alex last night, he goes, oh, I love Two for you and Josh kill it. And he bought me a beer. So I was like,
wow.
Yeah, a lot of guys. Hey, I'm up for anything. I take pictures. I kiss babies everywhere.
Free beer is free beer.
But buy me the booze, Alex. You're the man. And also shout out to Alex, the owner of Danny's Pizza. He gave us his tickets last night, so me and the boo had killer seats. We're right there, almost on the ice. So the two Alexes came through last night. But all the fans, believe me, you don't have to buy me anything. He's like, yeah, I buy you a drink. I'm like, no. Hey, but he did. It's super nice. I'm just glad everyone listens and enjoys, because I have as much fun hanging with these guys as anybody. I mean, I get to talk to Josh for an hour every day, every once a week about hockey. I'm not bothering him. I text him like, I bothered Stag. I don't know. Me and Staggy were going at, after Friday, I was going to jump off a bridge. I was texting Staggy. Staggy's like, oh, hang in there.
Joe's support group, like a Penguin sponsor, Paul Staggerwalt.
It's funny. Things have gotten so bad in that losing streak. So in Ottawa on Thursday, my youngest Connor is a big hockey fan. He plays hockey, so he never gets to meet Sid because the Penguins always play in Ottawa on Saturdays, and he plays hockey, so he always has a game on the weekends. So the Penguins were there Thursday. So I take my youngest, got him little passes for the morning skate, and he's talking with Sid afterwards. And Sid's great with kids. A couple of days later, Sid looks at me. He goes, hey, it was real nice meeting your boy. I said, oh, I said, well, thank you for taking the time. And then Sid says, oh, God, next time you bring him, I promise we'll play a little better. I said, it couldn't have been much worse. Like, I don't know what happened in Ottawa, but that was I think, the bottom point, I hope, for the Penguins, because that was a terrible hockey game.
Oh man,
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm going to be completely honest. I always honest on this show. I don't even think in the Rico Fata era that I ever paused the TiVo and just said, I had to turn away for like 20 minutes. I literally 2 days in a row, Edmonton and Ottawa. I literally was like, I can't look at this right now. Yeah. It's upsettingly bad.
Yeah, Ottawa especially, like, they didn't look like they were even trying in Ottawa. Like, I can live with Edmonton. Like, McDavid put on a show that night. He was unbelievable. Like, that's going to happen. Okay. What I saw in Ottawa was a team that was just checked out emotionally, and that's not good. And, it's tough. I go in the locker room after games, and usually I have an angle or questions I want to ask. The only question I could think of to ask in Ottawa was like, what the hell? Like what was that? That was a bad look. I actually thought in Montreal they played hard. They just ran into a hot goalie. I think that kid's pretty good. They second and third periods, they did some good things in Montreal, but you're right, Joe. Edmonton, really Utah, Edmonton, Ottawa, that 3-game stretch in particular was the worst we've seen them play all season.
That was the low point. That was high consumption of alcohol period. For beer sales through the roof. If you want to sponsor us, we'll push them your way.
Well, the just like, I know some people disagree with me, and I know my own kind of natural hatred of the Senators, but Ottawa's not a good team.
Yeah,
And we made them. I don't mind having Jesus school us, but Ottawa, come on, they're terrible.
They're very mid.
Yeah. What's so funny is, Lord knows I am Lord knows on yesterday, Kevin Hayes. All my friends know I'm not in the Kevin Hayes fan club. And then Kevin Hayes, once again, first of all, he gets way too much ice time. They're ineffective and they play too much. I didn't see enough of the kids yesterday, but his slow back check would cost us a goal. It just cost us a goal. He just was not where he should be. Look, yeah, and but who knew shootout specialist Kevin Hayes would come through? I mean, if he would have done that all year, I'd be keep him in the lineup.
Oh yeah, it's like the Eric Christensen effect. I thought, like the slower, older Eric Christensen.
I give him credit, or Dan Muse credit rather, like for thinking outside the box. Now I will say Hayes had a breakaway goal earlier this year. I think it was in Philly, in fact. But when he hopped over the boards, I was like, Jesus, I wasn't expecting that. Wow, okay, that's outside the box for sure. But then not only did he score, but it was kind of pretty, and he made it look easy. So okay, and I give Muse credit too for listen. He's not going to go with all the same old guys. Like he's still going with Sid on the shootout, and Sid's so stubborn. God love him. He's just going to keep shooting at that glove side until he beats it once. But we've seen some different looks in the shootout. They just needed to win a game, Joe. I don't really give a shit how they went about doing it. They just needed to win a game. Like sometimes you get to that point where when you win, then you can relax a little bit and just start playing again, and you don't feel like everything's just steamrolling you. So a very important shootout win, and I give Shelov's credit too. He wasn't really great during the game, but he certainly wasn't overtime and in the shootout.
Oh, he was. I was literally thinking. I literally told people at the intermission, I believe, after the Hayes debacle for the first period and a half, I literally said, if Kevin Hayes is legitimately the 12th best forward in this organization, we deserve Gavin McKenna. Like, there shouldn't even be a lottery. If he truly is you list them 1 through 12. That being said, and I thank him for his shootout prowess. We needed Boku last night. Wi-Fi crushed Gavin McGroarty like 3 times.
Yeah, he did.
Right in front of me. And I love the kid. He didn't give a damn. He got right back up there and even was skating next to him, like, wasn't mouthing off, but just like, yeah, this is hockey. But I guarantee he wouldn't have done that if was in the line. At least he would have had 5 minutes to think about it in the sin bin.
It's funny, Joe, you're always calling for it, but it's the general sentiment amongst Yinzer fans, because now with my kids playing hockey more, I'm in youth locker rooms a lot more, and just in the general conversation amongst the dads, I had like 5 dads in the last 2 weeks tell me they need that Boko in the lineup more. I'm like, they don't even know I'm on this podcast or anything. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's all I hear, like.
Well, the thing about him, yes, we know what he brings to the lineup, but in his limited appearances, I thought the fourth line looked better. Like especially with Lizotte. Now, I understand when Lizotte's healthy, for reasons I can't even understand. Like Lizotte, Dewar, Achari, they just work together. They do. They're an effective line. But you don't have that right now. No, he brings an energy, and the team was flatlining for about a week. And I would have considered it. He's not going to make or break their season, but he does bring an energy. And I'll tell you who else brings energy is young players. And it's about time. I appreciate that Hayes scored in the shootout, and I like him on a personal level. But no, I agree with you. He's not one of their 12 best forwards. He's not. And neither is Danton Heinen. And talk about somebody who just flatlines his way, or it just drives you crazy. I know he scores goals on occasion, but I would love to see Tristan Bro.
Hockey players.
Yeah, I'd love to see Avery Hayes.
Yeah,
these are guys who play with a certain energy. Who play. Hayes kind of plays like a dick. They need somebody like that right now. They really do. that youthful energy goes a long way, and I think it's something Kyle Dubas needs to think long and hard about over the holiday break here, regardless of where they are in the standings. There's too many vanilla players in this locker room right now.
Yeah, I thought Ville Koivunen played pretty good last night. I just don't think when it all shakes out this year, unless you don't care, but if you care as much as I do to squeak in, I don't think when everybody's back, I don't think he gets a sweater. I want to see Bros. I want to see Bros more than anybody. But how about a guy named Noel with the Christmas miracle goal from the top of the circle? I couldn't believe that one. And but just getting back to the, I never thought Zach Aston Reese was going to be. What did they say he was going to be? Rick Tocchet or whatever they were. John Leclerc.
Hornquist. Jim Rutherford said Hornquist. He compared him to Hornquist,
which is even. I mean, I love Leclerc, but I mean, Leclerc didn't play like horny. It all ended when Mr. Wilson ran him over.
Yes, it did.
And I certainly don't want to have Wrecker McGroarty turn into Zach Aston Reese, the guy who's run into 40 people and they pretended they were hits. Yeah. I don't want that to happen because Wi-Fi scares them or knocks them out, whatever the hell happens. That's why those kids need protection.
No, that's a very valid point. They were clearly targeting McGroarty last night. I don't know why, but they were. And I just haven't seen enough pushback in general from the Penguins during this losing streak. We've seen a number of times. It wasn't really Sid taking hits from people, but I've seen a lot of teams, taking some runs and the Penguins basically ignoring it. I've seen them fall behind in games and the Penguins look like they don't really care that much. I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting there in the last 2 weeks watching a game thinking to myself, like, somebody throw a hit, like somebody pick a fight, to do something to give the illusion that you're interested. There's too many guys in this lineup right now that just look very comfortable being in the lineup, and that's not the way it should look when a team's playing the way the Penguins are.
But Josh, but I didn't feel that way at all until the losing streak.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? I mean, we had Mo Mantha throwing punches, Brazeau. Yes. We had guys, Shea was stepping up, Wotherspoon was stepping up, even Graves was getting physical. Like, I didn't see that.
I agree.
When we were winning.
It goes hand in hand usually. I think, just seeing it just felt like they became a very passive team, and we talked last week about the prevent defense in hockey. It just kind of felt like a lot of standing around. Like when the sticks become less active, and there's a lot of the feet aren't moving as much. You're just like, oh boy, this is starting to slow down and grind to a halt.
And I know I'm I'm the vice president of the Gino fan club, but I don't think that happens if Gino's still playing. If they're losing 4-0, he's gonna take a slash.
That's what I love about Gino. He's gonna
he's gonna do something. I mean, it's just like. And then there's enough guys, not like 2 years ago, there's enough guys on the team now that will jump into the fight with him.
And I will say, I'm glad you mentioned Gino, because I think the general sentiment among most Penguins fans right now is, okay, the first couple months were great, but this is kind of who we are and probably not going to make the playoffs and the wheels are kind of falling off now. That might well be true. I don't know. But I will say, that I don't think this team can accurately be judged until we see Gino back in the lineup, because, they lost 8 in a row, whatever it was. And how many games did Gino miss? It literally started when he was out of the lineup in Dallas a little over 2 weeks ago. He is a better than a point per game player this season. The Penguins are a much, much better team when he's in the lineup. Good enough to be a playoff team? I don't know. But I don't think they would have lost that many games in a row if he were in the lineup. Now, I realize they weren't necessarily blowing leads because Gino wasn't around. I understand he's not, Patrice Bergeron when it comes to protecting third-period leads. But he's a big part of this team, and I think he'll be back sooner rather than later. And let's see how they look when he returns before we write them off.
He's a guy that is up ice and he's at least gonna back people off,
Mhm.
and at least like he's not gonna play passive. He's not gonna dump it in. He's gonna try to go 1-on-4 and at least cause some chaos. I just don't think they're sitting back when they're up 4-1.
And when he's in the lineup, I think you just have people push down the lineup to where they should be.
Yep.
Right. I mean that one just, and I'll throw Lizotte. Blake Lizotte's not Evgeny Malkin, but he is an important part of this team. And you have two guys who probably shouldn't be in the lineup right now because those two are out. Injuries happen, I realize, but if they can get healthy with those two guys,
we're not deep enough to survive that.
Right, they're not, and it just kind of resets the lineup where you can go back to that fourth line that works. You can use the kid line as your third line, and if we're going to see Koivunen continue to struggle, well, put Novak on that line. That's fine. That might make that line better. In fact, the Malkin line with the big boys has been very good for you. Sid and Raquel and Russ are probably going to figure things out. So when those guys get healthy, I do think it changes things. And speaking of the lineup guys, as bad as Chris Letang has been all season, he's been terrible. We've documented it very well. I think he's been better in the last two games with Kulak as his partner.
Last two games, he has been better. I have to admit that because my family is always like, "You're so hard on Letang." I'm like, "Well, he makes a mistake every play."
Right. Oh no, I hear it from the very vocal Letang fan base on a regular basis. Like, I'm calling it like it is, but I thought he was good last night. I thought that was one of his best games of the season. Even though Kulak hasn't really on his own impressed me that much, he was better last night too. But he's played with Bouchard a lot in Edmonton. I think he knows how to play with guys who kind of have that more offensive mindset. And Letang, I will tell you this, and this is nothing against Ryan Shea, who I think is a pretty darn solid defenseman. But Shea's your classic kind of stay-at-home defenseman. He doesn't have the greatest puck skills in the world. Letang does not like playing with guys like that. He likes to play with people who can handle the puck on their own. Remember when Scuderi came back the second time, like 2013 or 14, whenever it was? They put those two together for about 10 games. And Letang, literally went nuts on Todd Reardon. And told him, I cannot play with this guy anymore. Every time I give him the puck, he shoots it off the glass and back to the neutral zone. I need somebody who can get me the puck back. He doesn't want to play with stay-at-home defenseman. Kulak's more that kind of a guy. So it's 2 games. I don't know. But I thought Letang looked a lot different in the last 2 games, and that's encouraging.
I've always said with hockey people too, defensemen, forwards, yeah, you have pairs, you have guys that you like to keep together, but you can be a little more interchangeable. Mm-hmm. There's something like it whenever you get a half a defensive line shift and they get stuck out there with someone else, that always worries me because people underestimate how important, and there's really sometimes no rhyme or reason to it. But in Letang's case, I think we know.
I think Kulak played very well. It was the first game when I thought, oh, he played good last night.
Yeah,
I thought St. Ivan, he played pretty good last night. But I'm going to say this: I never thought I'd take this stance. I still think that Ryan Graves did not play his way out of the lineup. Now, I think Wotherspoon is cooling off just a hair, and I am not saying not play him with Carlson. I think they've been our best pair. They're in the top 5 in standings in the NHL. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. But I don't think that, I think Shea's played well enough to stay in the lineup. All I'm saying is I don't think Graves. I think Graves played pretty good. That's all I'm saying. And I think we're missing him a little bit. He seemed to move the puck and was keeping the puck in, just playing pretty good hockey when all of a sudden he's been banished.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's been considerably better this season. These are good problems to have. I mean, I thought all of the defensemen in Ottawa were just awful. That was the first bad game for everybody on the blue line. And I would say Wotherspoon's level of play has probably dipped a little bit in the last 6 or 7 games, just a little bit. He's fine. He's a good player. I would certainly leave him with Carlson on that top pairing. But I like the moves that he made. I think the blue line's been a lot better the last couple of games. I am curious to see what they do with Graves and when and if he can get back in the lineup, because I agree with you. As bad as he's been in Pittsburgh, he didn't do anything that warranted being removed from the lineup. I think they just didn't know who to take out, quite honestly, when they brought Kulak in. So we shall see. But I thought Kulak was good last night, and They need to avoid Letang making the catastrophic mistakes
Yes.
more than anything. That's been the problem. That's what he has been doing. He hasn't made any the last couple of games, and I actually thought he skated really well last night. That was the best he's moved in a while. So we'll see how he looks moving forward. But I thought it was encouraging.
No, and like I think when it was Shea and St. Ivany, I think that was the best of those two, right? Other than Shea beginning of this year, so that might be the pair to stick with. And then I don't know if it was like you were. I don't think it was you or Elliott, but there was talk out there that the Penguins were trying to move Connor Clifton.
Yeah, I think it was Elliott. It wouldn't shock me. They have too many defensemen. So if you can move a guy or two, and I don't think Clifton's been terrible. Like I think he's fine. I think he's a number 6 or 7 defenseman. That's what he is.
There's somebody who will need that.
Yeah, I mean so that might well be the case. We shall see. But they have a decent amount they have more depth on the blue line right now than they have at forward, I would say. It's just a matter of finding, I think, the right combinations of players. Maybe they have for now. Well, we shall see. I like the changes that he made. It's early, but we'll see.
Before we move to the Steelers, what did you guys think of Mantha in overtime? I was kind of like, the Montreal was so fast, and I like Mantha. I like what he's been doing. You know what I mean? But I just thought 3-on-3. I was like, we can't catch up to them anyways. Like I don't like what. Maybe he was just like, well, go stand at the blue line, see if he can get a breakout pass. I don't know. I just thought curious.
You mentioned the lack of depth that this team has in some ways, and that was probably an example. Because I think you had some guys who were tired. You can't put Chari out there. Dewar doesn't make sense out there. You can't put Hayes out there 3-on-3. So it probably limits your options. I don't think Mantha's been very good the last couple of weeks. I think Gino was probably making him look a little better than he is. He's been fine. He has not been bad. The more I watch Mantha, though, I can understand why he has frustrated coaches over the years, because you see all the talent and all the size, and he's just way too quiet some games.
Yeah, I felt the same way, Corey. Like he's out there and then he was getting run around. There was just swinging around him. I'm more curious of why is he still on the power play?
Yes.
Kindle, you would have Kindle have his own unit or whatever. Okay, then put Tommy Novak. I don't know. There's got to be put Letang back. Just someone that's going to move the puck. I think the number one power play has. They scored a couple last night. But I do think it has not looked the same since Kindle and 71 have been on it. Like I don't know if you guys saw it, but that coincidental minors were skating for a side. I'm like, this is going to be death.
Oh.
Thank God we escaped that fate.
Remember back in the day whenever we used to love that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mantha, listen, I'm fine with him on the top power play if he's going to go in front of the net, but he doesn't.
He did at the end. He did at the end.
But in general, if he's just going to stay out on the perimeter, what's the point?
Right.
And Kindle may have the best power play instincts of anybody on the team. Literally, he's good on the top power play. I'd love to see him back there. So that's my opinion on that. Mantha hasn't been terrible. In general, he's been fine, but he's one of those guys who's always going to leave you wanting a little bit more. That's just the way he's been at every NHL stop.
I'm telling you, this might sound a little crazy for him just being an 18-year-old rookie, but Kindle's vision has me thinking that he is a superstar in the making and a lifelong Penguin. Like that's just the more I see him, like early on, I got really excited, but I'm like, tamper your enthusiasm. And the more I see him, like you said, on the power play, his vision, his decision making. If the kid was 6'4", he would have been the first overall pick in the draft.
No question. I don't know about superstar. There's only so many of those, but he's going to be really good.
He'll be an all-star.
He's already one of their best penalty killers and one of their best power play guys, and he's 18. He's a pretty special talent, and all those people who gave Dubas shit for taking him with the 11th pick.
Right here.
Joe was one of them, and
right here.
Those people did, and I'll tell you what, they made the right pick.
They certainly. I'm not complaining now. I'm not complaining. Although I did see Martone playing Michigan State, and yikes.
Oh, we like him.
Yeah, but if I was a lifelong Flyer fan, so F him. But no, I just have I had two points. One is I think one of the dings Rusty took, I think it's affecting him. He's not handling the puck like he used to. Maybe his forearms a little messed. I don't know. He's always going to give more effort than anybody.
Yeah.
But he doesn't look quite like he's regular Rusty, especially like the stick handling, the puck handling, shooting. The other thing is that they turned around last night in about the second period, and it's why Mike Sullivan is in New York. They started playing up ice and throwing the puck up ice as opposed to cross ice. I think in this whole 9-game or 8-game, I'm going to say winless streak, not losing streak. There you go. Staggy does not like calling it a losing streak because they still got points. So if you're listening, Stag,
I know Pierre LeBrun reminded me of that this morning. Now technically it's a winless streak. Now trust me, they've sucked, Pierre.
Well, I speak for. I just know Staggy. I'm in deference to Staggy. Well, I'm going to call it a winless streak.
All right.
That I thought they got very cross ice passy. Very much looking for the big play, cross ice this, and keep going back the other way. So everyone who wants to say, "Oh, Gino wasn't around," you can't blame Gino for that.
Right.
But it seemed like last night they were back to shooting the puck up ice, passing the puck up ice, not cross ice. And wow, it made a world of difference.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny how that works.
How it
works. Well, before we get to the Steelers, guys, I just actually saw this. I was looking through the comments to see if there's anything to pop up. This might be the biggest compliment I've ever got in my life. I'll put it up there. Has anyone ever told you that you look like a young Mike Lang?
Wow.
Oh, my God. Like, I mean, if I could be half as good looking as Mike Lang, and, I was just like, well, okay. I mean, I'll take that. I love Mikey, and, we've gone over him. We've talked about how much we love that guy many, many times. I have to give myself a little flowers.
You couldn't drink as much as Mike Lang. I promise you that.
Oh, I won't get into it, but your choice of music is as good as Mike Lang's.
No, I could sniff out a blues bar 100 miles away.
No, it was well known. You go to Moondogs, you're gonna find Mikey. And I think he even said he probably wrote it many times. He told me one time that's where he got some of his sayings. I think Michael Motorcycle came from there, where he was leaving the bar and somebody said, "All right, see you later, Michael Motorcycle." I like that. So anyway, anytime I see Lang's name pop up, it catches my eyes in the comment. It happened to be, if I could just broadcast like him, maybe that would
compliment.
Yeah. So the great Mike Lang. I thank you for whoever did that. I'm blushing a little bit, but anyway. The Steelers, I said this, I don't know if it was on this podcast, it was on some podcast in the last week, that if they win, I'll take the Steelers seriously if they beat Detroit, Cleveland, in Cleveland, which I know it's Cleveland, but we haven't won there in forever. And that'll show me that they're a serious team if they win these two games. And I didn't really think that the first one was going to happen, and it did. And they kind of look like they have something. I'm not saying that they're, a Super Bowl contender, but in a wide open AFC, with no Patrick Mahomes, potentially no Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, they look like they've stumbled onto a little bit of an identity. What do you guys think?
I'll just say this: we taped last Monday, so we did not have Monday Night Football review on this podcast. So I was afraid we weren't going to be able to be happy the next time we talked about the Steelers. But boy, was that Monday night game fun. And even until they almost pulled the Penguin-esque collapse with 3 minutes left or whatever they did, I thought, wow, we finally had a Steeler game that we can relax and enjoy. Like, oh my God, we're winning. And 4 touchdowns and 4 drives. And I will say this, Josh, it's just fun to feel like we have an offense. Win, lose, or draw, at least we're not losing, whatever to 6. Or, we had 9 field goals, or Boz is MVP. At least we can enjoy a pass down field and a run.
I agree. And What happened yesterday, it's very easy to focus on the frantic final few seconds of that game. That's all anybody's going to talk about. Or DK Metcalf punching people in the crowd, which is a wild thing to see. I suspect he'll be getting suspended a game or two, and probably rightfully so. Like, you can't go all Ron Artest in Detroit of all places. Like, that's just not smart. So that's
he didn't actually punch the guy. They showed from another angle he had grabbed. It's still bad. Don't get me wrong. Grabbed the guy's shirt, and that's when the guy was down because he was holding his shirt, and he did one of those threw his shirt up to let go of him. Still not great at all.
No. So we're all distracted by that, and I think Aaron Rodgers called it the chaotic way the game ended, that's the perfect word for it. I don't know why the refs couldn't just make the call and had to talk about it for 5 minutes first. That was very strange. But aside from all of that, if you go back and look, the Steelers played a really impressive game. I mean, what their offense did in the second half, the way they ran the ball against a pretty good team, and the way Rodgers all of a sudden the last 3 weeks is just completely in control of this offense. This isn't some talented offense, and he's just making it work. I mean, he's getting Scotty Miller when he needs him, and Adam Thielen when he needs him, and Jonnu Smith when he needs him. I mean, it's unbelievable watching him just beat teams with his mind, and I think that's what we're seeing. And I think the defense completely ran out of gas in the fourth quarter, and that's a problem. We see that a lot with this group, but they're banged up. And what they did in the first 3 quarters, they held Jahmyr Gibbs 5 yards rushing all game. We saw a lot of really impressive things. I give Mike Tomlin as much shit as anyone, but I will give him credit for the last 3 weeks. Those are 3 pretty impressive wins. And in a really bad AFC, I don't really think they're a contender, but could they win a playoff game now? Maybe. I'm intrigued at least.
Yeah, it's imperative that they win Sunday or Saturday, whatever night they're playing in Cleveland. I don't care if DK Metcalf is playing or not. It's the Brownies.
Yeah, they're 3-12. I mean, I
don't care if they're throwing dog bones and snowballs at you. You got to win that game, and then you have nothing to worry about.
Rest up.
Rudolph plays. Everybody's happy. Everyone has a nice Christmas, and start working on game plans of how to stop whoever you have to stop in game 1.
But what's interesting? Green Bay and Baltimore play Saturday night. If Baltimore loses in Green Bay, and they'll be favored to do so, I would think, the division's over and the Steelers clinch. I wonder if they'll start resting people even as early as the Cleveland game if that happens. Why play Aaron Rodgers against Myles Garrett if there's a playoff game in 2 weeks?
Then you can have Myles Garrett break the sack record
against Mason
Rudolph.
Everyone gets yes, that's perfect. Then Mason can attack him afterwards and rip his helmet off, whatever. That might, I don't know, just throw. I mean, I would think Green Bay. I know Jordan Love got hurt and Lamar Jackson got hurt last night too, but I have to think Green Bay would be the favorite in that game at Lambeau, and Baltimore looks like they're done. So a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Well, the dude that came in for Love, he played okay. He didn't play that bad. So yeah, right. I mean, I don't know the rust versus rest factor. And an old guy doesn't play for a month, right? Because they don't have the bye. He'd be
maybe that's too long. I mean,
but I would not play him in Cleveland. Their Super Bowl for the last 50 years has been playing the Steelers.
Right.
You're gonna let those guys have a chance to knock Rodgers out?
Right.
If they were winning, if they had locked up the division, because I thought about that, and I'm like, you're gonna go through the game plan. That's the hard part. Is you're going to walk through the whole week planning to play, you know what I mean? The whole walk, first team reps, everything's going to be Rodgers. And not that it's that big of a deal, but I would think maybe it would feel better to get out there, maybe get a first half in, and then regardless of the score, just let it play out.
Maybe.
See, I say do that against the dead Ravens at home.
They have no pass rush, so maybe that makes more sense. I don't know.
Give them a week, and since it's a week closer to playing,
Right.
That's a good point. Good point.
First things first, they got to win the division, which they haven't done yet. And the last thing you want is to have to beat Baltimore in week 18. I don't care who's healthy or who's not. That could be a disaster. So either, if the Ravens go upset the Packers at Lambeau, then okay, take care of business in Cleveland. But they do need to get healthy. They've got way too many people injured in the TJ Watt situation, which, listen, that's a scary situation. That's more important than football.
Yep.
I don't think anybody really knows if we're going to see him again, but that still, gives him a few more weeks. Maybe the playoffs would be January 10th or 11th. Maybe he can play by then. I have no idea. But they could certainly use him and some other healthy bodies. They're really depleted right now. And one real quick thing about the Steelers: when did their offensive line not suck? Because all of a sudden, looks pretty good. Like Rodgers hasn't taken much of
like a good coach.
And like Aaron hasn't taken much of a beating lately, and the way they ran the ball in the second half yesterday, and against Miami, frankly, like wow, that was pretty impressive against a desperate Detroit team that's still a pretty good team. Like I was impressed.
He threw the ball around to everybody too, which was nice. And a nice big Mount Washington crushing that guy.
No, and just watching Rodgers play, he's just so damn smart. I mean, he just is. And you look at the year, he's got 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions this year. Like everyone acts like he's washed up. He's really not. He's still pretty good. He's not what he was 10 years ago, but the guy can still play.
I mean, if he wants to, I'd take him back for one more year.
I would too.
Like you're not going to find a better quarterback to play, and
none of the quarterbacks are coming out in the draft this year. It's not a good quarterback draft at all. So
no, you don't want Kenny Pickett 2.0. And I think Joe, I think they were talking about on the DV morning show. I don't know if it was one of the days that you were on, but they called it the Expendables. Like, getting all these old guys to come play, and I'm like, I'm a Michigan fan, so I love Roman Wilson. I don't know what he did wrong, but I'll tell you what, Adam Thielen, there's something to that pro thing because being a pro, because Aaron Rodgers on that one play just gave him the little check, like, hey, you see the same zone as I see, right? Find that seam and drop in it.
And how about Kenny Gainwell? Jesus. Like the offense is revolving around him now. What a player he is.
That was and I don't say this lightly, that was a Lynn Swan-esque catch.
It was.
We used to do that in the streets of Castle Shannon, laying in the street, like laying down in the street like Swanee in Super Bowl 10.
I mean, I think he's played himself into a wealthy man. I hope that he can obtain that wealth here. I think they have a lot of cap space, but he should be someone they should hang on to, because they were even talking about the broadcast. He's Tomlin has said he has the best hands on the team.
And the rookie kid, they stopped the run when he plays. He has to stay, put him in a bubble.
Yeah, Derek Harmon made a difference yesterday. I don't think there's any question. And listen, I've given Cam as much shit as anyone. He's been a monster the last few weeks. I give him credit. He's been unbelievable.
Far be it for me to talk about somebody's belly, but Cam's got a belly.
Yeah, he does. He carries it well, though.
Oh, he does. He's an athletic man. They just zoomed in on him. I'm like, God, he looks fat.
It's funny because,
I'm sorry, Corey, and he takes way less Gatorade breaks than the number 90.
Yes, he does.
He's never not on the fields. He's in good shape. But I just thought, wow, he's carrying some weight.
I thought about that too, because Cam and I are a couple years apart in age. And I'm like, my belt has been a little tighter. Like, I actually had to go up a notch here. This isn't good. I'm almost 40. Things are starting to fall apart. I got to work out harder to even just look fat, and so I'm like, I literally thought that same thing, Joe. Like, whenever I was like, oh, and then I thought, is he going to be like, remember how Casey Hampton's like a shell of himself now?
Oh yeah, a lot of those guys are.
Like, I think about the caloric intake that those guys have to have in order to maintain weight. Is his grocery bill is probably going to go down significantly once he retires.
Well, it goes one way or the other. Like Alan Faneca became like skinny,
right? So did Aaron Smith,
or they just ballooned because they don't, they don't have to work out anymore. So we shall see.
Yeah, but no, I mean, all was good. All have a Merry Christmas to all, and all a good night on Sunday night. Because not only that, but then we topped it off with the Ravens losing to the Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots did the job just barely, but they did the job.
I mean, we won't get on it because we got to get going. But that Derrick Henry scored a touchdown with 12 and a half minutes to go and didn't see the field the rest of the game.
Yeah, what the hell? What's John Harbaugh doing?
What are you?
I give even Collinsworth on the air is like, Mike, this is really odd that Derrick Henry just isn't seeing the field right now. What's going on?
The guy that like regularly, routinely gets like 40 yards at a clip.
Fourth quarter.
I will say this though. I will. I like basically everybody but Ohio State, but I like Michigan, and I'm an SEC loyalist. I think the Texas teams are not really the real SEC teams, so I don't really care about them. But let me tell you this: that you have to live a long time to watch a better football game than that Alabama game on Friday night. And when they were down 17-0, it was like the Penguins were losing to Ottawa. I needed like a 15-minute break, but I literally was just about to be like, let's see what else is on. And then, it looked like Saban came behind the bench. It looked like Saban stepped on the sidelines because it was an incredible Alabama performance after that. And I just want to give one more shout out. I'm going to give a shout out to the great Pat McAfee, because if they do away with that field goal kick next year, I will be upset. Because that's like one of the greatest things ever, when they do the picks and then they do the field goal. And they put $1 million on that kid. He almost made so many horrible kickers this week in college football. It was insane how many missed kicks.
I think you would have been better without those jeans.
Yes. And I will say, now that the James Madisons of the world are out of it, the matchups for the quarterfinals are going to be great. Legit. We got Indiana, Alabama at the Rose Bowl. Sign me up for that.
The 1 year I'm not going to be at the Rose Bowl, I'll be in Florida. My sister and all of her kids and my brother-in-law are all going. And I tell you, how didn't they get the number 1 seed and they get Bama? I mean, you shouldn't have to play Alabama for the number 1 seed.
It should reseed.
That's tough.
Yeah. I thought the first 2 games, I'm like, they figured out this college football thing, playoff thing. Finally, the first round was entertaining, and then the 2 later games happened. I was like, never mind. Let's get out of this. Let's get out of this. Bringing James Madison into it. So, anyways, well, that'll do it for us on 2 for Talking. We appreciate all of you. Everybody have a Merry Christmas. Hopefully, the Penguins will beat up on a lackluster Toronto team tomorrow, and then we'll.
Speaking of a team that has problems, oh my God.
Yeah, that's one more present is what Joe wanted under his tree. There's one more present Santa's got to bring. So,
I will say this though: Merry Christmas, Josh. Merry Christmas, Corey. And I'm happy. Like I needed that.
Yes.
Of course, I couldn't go into Christmas on a 10-game winless streak, Staggy.
The city of Pittsburgh needed that whole day yesterday, I think. So they're all going into the holidays in good spirits. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We certainly do appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you guys.